look at what I just found. This is all leftover stuff from previous projects. Let's go in the sandbox and see if we can figure out a cool project to make. And I'm gonna start assembling something, and I guarantee it's gonna change probably 100 times. So I found all this old random stuff laying around our construction area, and I wanna figure out something to do with all these miscellaneous parts. So I just drug all this stuff back to our sandbox area. This is all the miscellaneous pieces and parts left over from projects. Sandbox is an awesome place. It's a cool R&D place. We do Aquascape Academies here. Our construction team is gonna hone their craft here. We have Artists of the Year that come in to do really unique builds. So what I wanna do is I wanna take advantage of this space because it's kind of that off season for them. It's midsummer for us, but no one's in this area working. So now I've put all my stuff in here and I wanna figure out what to do. So let's start out with the heart of the system, which is gonna be this giant blue tub. If you remember the really cool turtle experiences that we've had with our buddy Bob Kraus, this is the Head Start program for those Midland painted turtles. This came from Bob's basement. So this is gonna house everything. Underneath it all, I'm gonna have a rubber membrane that I have left over from the Trapper project that I just completed a couple weeks ago. We have all these different aqua blocks. Do you remember, it was cold, springtime, maybe winter, where I put all these big aqua blocks outside and I tried to crush them with many tons of stone. This is the leftover pieces from that stuff. I have an old pump vault over in the back that was actually damaged. The pump itself was actually utilized for our pump test in this same room where we blasted water and tried to hit the ceiling with water. Then we have all the beautiful fake rock and stuff like that left over from Greg's Turtletopia, Brian Bartek's Legacy Aquarium, Franklin Sieber raw fishing, his outdoor koi pond, all these miscellaneous pieces and parts and stuff that we've been accumulating. Now it's time to come up with something creative where we could start to utilize all these different things in a different configuration, which is what I love about what I do. I'm a perpetual student. I always take a little bit of knowledge from each and every individual project that I work on. Now I want to take all that different stuff and put it together in something. I don't even know what it's going to look like at this point. All I know is I'm going to use these pieces and parts and I'm going to start assembling something, and I guarantee it's going to change probably 100 times between now and the time this is completed. All right, this is a unique project. I said that right from the very beginning because it's kind of a conglomeration of all the different pieces and parts. So what I want to do now, I'm back in the man cave, just on the outside edge of the sandbox area. I just want to take the time to do a little bit of a sketch. I normally do this process before I actually start construction, but this time it's a little different. I have all the pieces and parts and I'm working backwards. So here's kind of my current thought. So what we have, the main feature that I'm working with right now is we have that beautiful tank. We have this tank. I have aqua blocks. So I want to pump water into this tank. So what I want to do is I'm thinking of having some bulkhead fittings or something over on the side. And we're going to have water falling out of the tank. So I'm going to have water coming into it. I'm using some of that fake natural rock. I'm going to do some waterfalls, and I'm going to have a series of cascades and things like that falling inside of the pond. It's then going to overflow out. So what I'm gonna have is a pump vault or something like that underneath everything. My initial thought was to actually excavate everything down and actually have the ground level with this tank. Now what I'm thinking of doing, for two reasons, I'm working on this myself, so I have these big aqua blocks. So these things are 18 inches tall that are going in underneath everything here. So I don't know if I want to bury them all the way. I'm thinking I'm only going to dig halfway down. So I'm going to have my rubber liner kind of come in like this, go underneath everything. And you can see I'm going to keep this a little bit elevated. So what that's going to do is that's going to set this tank at a higher elevation, which is going to give it a little bit more interest, but it's also going to allow me to do this waterfall over here. So I'm going to have these bulkhead fittings overflowing water out. I'm thinking of having some more big rocks over here on the side of all this stuff. And then I'm going to have some waterfalls and cascades and things like that coming off on the side. So that's kind of where I'm currently at. So what I want to do basically, dig this down, put my geotextile liner in place, all recycled stuff, put the aqua blocks in place, get my tank situated, And then I'm gonna start utilizing some of those fake rocks, and I'm just gonna start layering different pieces in place, and it's gonna be a very free flow project, which is kind of fun because again, it's a little bit different than I normally would build something like this. So I'm looking forward to doing this. Start off with a little bit of manual construction, start digging a hole, see what happens from there, start putting everything in place, and then I'm gonna look back, evaluate it, and then I will start moving on to the next phase. A little bit of an update, not just did the excavation. As you can see, I did not dig the aqua blocks all the way down. Number one, I'm digging it alone, so kind of got lazy, didn't want to keep digging it down.
Lazy bum.
But then just thinking about some different options, because I'm using a solid container, I could actually sit that on top of those blocks, and I could actually have water coming out of it and maybe a couple little waterfalls or something. So again, a little bit different of a process for me than normal. It'll turn out pretty awesome. I'm excited about this and see how it's all going to come together in the next few days. So I'm making progress. It is going a little bit slow. And unfortunately, that is just because I'm out here by myself. All alone, all alone. But not a bad thing. I always enjoy building, and especially these more cerebral ones where I'm just kind of thinking and looking. Don't exactly know how I want to put stuff together, so it doesn't make sense to have a team around during that process. Actually counterproductive. But what I have, got the rubber liner in place, set those aqua blocks, and I raised that tank just to give it a little bit more visibility. And now the more I look at this, you know, as it's being raised up, I wanted to have water coming down. I was going to have a waterfall or something coming out of this. The other thing I think that's kind of a little fun and different here, this piece that I stood up is actually meant to be an outcropping rock, or kind of lay down flat. So it has tons of texture and stuff on the top, and it has some of these horizontal lines, but this is meant to lay down. So what I did was I stood it up vertically. And again, it's a fake stone, so I don't mind playing around with that type of stuff. And actually it looks kind of unique like that. And then I have this big blocky piece over here, which these are made, Universal Rock makes these, done a ton of work with Stuart and his team. These are made to cover utility boxes and stuff like that, so they're very they're utilitarian, easy to work with, easy to ship, etc. So what I want to do though, instead of setting it kind of like a block, I'm thinking of setting it up and kind of angling a little bit. So what I did was I placed a couple aqua blocks back over here behind my tank, and I'm going to play around with some different configurations and see if I could do something a little bit more unique or different with it. And it's just because I have this big pointy pinnacle-y thing over here, so to come in and just have this big flat slab behind it might look a little weird to me. So I'm thinking of angling a little bit. Now if this rock was an actual block of stone, it'd be many tons, so I would not be playing around with it as much as I'm going to. Right now I could twist and pull and push this thing wherever I want just by myself, so I don't think it's going to be that hard to kind of configure some things. So there's my big block. Just kind of perched up back over there. It'll definitely change once I get sort of a backdrop behind everything, plantings and that type of stuff around it. I just didn't like the shape, so now I at least have somewhat of a slope. I'm not really too thrilled below this section over here. I might need to get some vegetation or something kind of creeping up that. I like this face. That actually looks pretty decent, so I'll try to highlight that. Obviously need to cover the little joint down here on the bottom in order to make that work. My next step, this is some of that leftover material that we had from Franklin. So this is from raw fishing. So these are just some of the little leftover strip. And what I want to try to do, instead of just loading this all up with rock work on the inside, big boulders, which I can do and it look really good, it's going to just take away from the volume. So I think I might come in with the fake stone, kind of wrap around everything, and then layer in some of the natural stuff just to create a little bit of depth to everything. So I'll kind of play around with some different configurations and see if I can make that work. And I also want to come in with some of the driftwood and different stumps that we have. So what we want to try to do is maybe add those into the foreground where they have a little bit more visual interest, and then that way I could highlight them with some plantings and things like that, just to create all these different little layers going all the way back through everything. And I think that's going to be the key to this particular project. So unfortunately, I can't do this project from start to finish just because of other projects and initiatives that are actually happening. So I'm actually leaving here in a couple days and I'm going down to Florida for 2 reasons. One of those reasons is I'm going down for one of our regional events. That regional event is kind of it's a training event where I'm going to be teaching some new contractors about how to properly install an ecosystem pond, but I'm also doing a project for a bald eagle at the zoo. So it's kind of a combined thing, which is going to be really, really cool. I love doing animal projects. So doing something for an amazing animal like a bald eagle is just going to be really, really cool. The other reason I'm going down to Orlando area is because of Animal Con. So Animal Con is an influencer event that Brian Barczyk has created. So I love Brian and everything that he brings to this incredible industry. I mean, he has just transformed everything and he's been just done a phenomenal job with that. So looking forward to going down to Animal Con, meeting up with other content creators that I've done work with, as well as possibly hooking up with some of you. I don't know if people are going to be coming down to visit us, but yeah, it should be a really cool time down in Orlando. So I'm going to be off of this project for well over a week. Hopefully I'll have some fresh ideas, and I want to just kind of be freeform with this project, which is a little bit different than other projects I've done. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please take the time to check out some of these past projects.